What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to my channel. Today we're looking at some more I Do Work Here Lady stories. I'm homeless? So I work at a Starbucks right next to a car wash, and they're both located pretty close to the highway. My partner works at the car wash next to the Starbucks, and I got a job at the Starbucks since we have to share a car at the moment. Many days I'm early to work because there's no sense in taking him to work and driving home only to go right back. I was there about an hour and a half early this day because I had already run the errands I needed to for the day while he was at work. I'd gotten up early and hadn't been able to sleep due to my wrist hurting due to carpal tunnel. Now this is important for later. So here I am, sleep deprived in my already covered in sugar due to working at Starbucks jacket, my bag beside me with a bunch of art supplies that I carry around, my apron inside the bag, a dirty shirt that I'd thrown on, and a depressed look on my face. I also wore a hat, a black beanie, every day to work, so today was no different. I realized with my wrist brace I couldn't draw, and my phone was about to die, so I'd be bored for another hour and a half or so. I sit there with my bag beside me and nothing to do for about 45 minutes before I hear someone say, "Excuse me," and tap me on the shoulder. I turn around and a Santa Claus looking man, he wasn't dressed that way, just the white/grey beard and all that, was standing there. The conversation proceeded to go as followed. "Sorry, have you eaten?" Yeah? I hadn't, but I get a free food item every day, so I was going to anyway." "Oh, you have? Oh well, I wanted to give you this. Get yourself a coffee," he says with a small laugh and hands me $6 because Starbucks is expensive as anything. "Oh, thanks so much." Now that was more from how I acted when we got tips until he walked away. I then realized I was just given $6 to eat and drink from a random guy. From his perspective, I looked like a young, depressed, homeless feminine teen on the side of a highway, even though I was sitting at my place of work. I do love these sorts of stories, just a wholesome misunderstanding. People are good. Can you imagine if he'd said, "There's a Starbucks right there, you should ask for a job"? Actually sir, I'm starting my shift in 40 minutes. See, now that's the spirit. Well, I guess this story just confirms that Santa is indeed real, so stop with all your conspiracy theories. Moving on to our second story. Substitute para tries to get security to take me off the playground. This happened to me about 2 years ago. I was working as an AmeriCorps member, doing tutor/mentor stuff, and I often led games outside with the K3 kids during recess. Most days I'd wear one of those bright yellow vests with school zone on the back, but since my vest had gotten torn in half, it's a long story, I went out without it. I hadn't thought it was a big deal since all the kids knew me and so did all the paras. Well, it turns out that one of the paras had to leave early for some reason and she had a sub come in. The sub hadn't been to our school before, so she didn't know me and just saw a short and pudgy girl, I was 18 at the time, coming through the gate and over to a big group of kids. Instantly, all the kids started running since they knew our game today was a sort of scavenger hunt that would then turn into capture the flag once they found all the little tags. While the group was off, I went to go talk to one of the smaller kids sitting on a bench nearby. She'd been told by some of the boys she couldn't play because she was too small and a girl. I was knelt down so we were on eye level and holding her hands to give her encouragement. This is when the sub comes over. "Hey, what are you doing?" I thought she was yelling at a kid, so I hadn't paid much attention to her. I just kept talking to the girl I was giving encouragement to. I gave her a hug since she wanted one and got up. That's when the sub came up and grabbed me by my arm. "I'm talking to you. What are you doing here? This is a closed campus. Visitors aren't allowed." Me, being an idiot, more focused on the actual rules than the mix-up. Actually, while it is a closed campus, visitors are allowed. They just need a proper ID and a visitor's pass. Now the sub thinks I'm talking back. "And you clearly don't have either, so get out before I call security." I'm still oblivious to what's going on. Why would you need to call security? Why should I leave? And can you let go? You're hurting my arm. The sub pulled out her borrowed radio. "I'll call security." I was about to go into a full-blown panic when one of the other paras came running over. He was a bigger guy and looked like he was about to ram into the sub, stopping just short. We'll call him Mr. S. "Oh, Mr. S, I found this teen sneaking onto campus and scaring the kids. Please call security." Mr. S is confused. "What are you talking about? She's one of our staff members." "No, she came from outside the gate and she's not wearing a vest. Plus, the kids were all running from her." I finally pull my arm out of her grip. I came around from dropping off public library books across the street during my break, and they ran because they know our game starts as soon as I'm outside. The sub was pretty surprised, and Mr. S ended up escorting her back inside. I don't remember what exactly happened to her, but I didn't see her again after that. Kinda glad though, she left a pretty nasty bruise on my arm. Now, to be honest with you, I don't really see this sub being in the wrong at all. In her perspective, you were an unknown adult who approached her students. They ran except for a tiny child who refused to move, and you went up to that tiny child and made physical contact with them. Like, there is nothing but red flags there. Maybe this camp needs a check-in system or backup vests or something. There should be some way of dealing with this. Like, imagine if you were just a random member of the public. It seemed pretty easy for you to just walk into the school. Let me know what you guys think down below, but in my opinion on this story, this sub did everything right. Moving on to our third story, working as an intern, got mistaken for client and treated like a child. This is kind of a short story, but I think it's worth sharing and it always cracks me up. My last semester of college, I did an internship as a part of my special education degree. The organization I was working for was what's called a sheltered workshop, essentially a place for companies to send products to be processed by people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Things like autism, Down syndrome, etc. at a reduced wage. I actually spent the entire semester researching sheltered workshops and the practice of sub-minimum wage, so it felt like undercover journalism most of the time. The employees, or clients, are monitored and supported by a large staff of barely trained non-disabled employees. I have chronic pain and fatigue, which means that I need to use mobility aids to get around. I alternated between a rolling walker and a manual wheelchair for most of my time there. I was the only non-client with a disability. I also wore a lanyard with my badge on it, which had my name and intern university name in big letters. Now, sometimes my lanyard would get turned around so the front couldn't be seen. On many occasions, I would be doing some work on my computer or a notebook while sitting in a common area, and one of the non-disabled employees would strike up a conversation either with me or with a group including me. Without fail, they would always address me with the same tone and manner they address the clients, while speaking perfectly normally to everyone else around. My personal favorite way of handling that was when they would pull the sugar sweet, "And who are you?" I'd say, "Oh hi, I'm me, the intern from this university. So nice to meet you, I'm really learning a lot from this experience." The look on their face as it dawns on them that I'm actually an articulate, college-educated person still makes me laugh to this day. It's like you could see the gears turn and the foot get shoved in their mouth. Lesson to be learned: don't treat disabled people like children, and never assume someone using a wheelchair is by default also intellectually disabled. Yeah, this is a very good point. If you treat someone like a kid constantly, they'll start believing it, and it can slow and stop parts of their mental development. People will mimic the environment that surrounds them, so don't surround them with baby speak. Now for our final story, entitled Customer Can't Read. I used to work as a loss prevention agent at a warehouse that would process lost mail orders. We would have everything from car parts to gun parts to expensive jewelry and pretty much anything else that you can think of that people might order online. Once a week, the warehouse would open to the public to auction off these items. For the most part, I would be in the security office watching the cameras, while the other members of my team, which also include off-duty police officers but sometimes me, would have to work out on the floor or the parking lot if we were low on security for that night. This being a seedier part of town and the warehouse offering major discounts on high-dollar items, we would get a lot of characters in there. Most of them were repeat customers that attended on a weekly basis. They knew how everything works and were relatively painless to deal with. On the opposite side of that, we would get new customers all the time who thought they'd be able to throw their bucks around and strong-arm anyone who might bid on something that they would want. This story is about a night where I was working in the parking lot directing traffic. It was not built to handle the traffic we would get on auction night, so our biggest problem there was usually people trying to park in the employee parking area. This is where entitled customer shows up. He whips his car through the parking lot with no regard for the foot traffic of the customers making their way in and zooms past me as I'm standing in the middle of the employee parking entrance, as if I wasn't even there. He then gets out of his car with his family, it was a Mercedes SUV by the way, and has this look on his face that just screams, "I'm entitled to anything and everything and no one can convince me otherwise." I approach the entitled customer. "Excuse me sir, you can't park here, it's reserved for the employees. You're gonna have to find a spot somewhere else." He replies, "Who are you to tell me where I can park? How do I know you're not trying to save it for someone else?" I should note that I'm wearing a full security guard uniform, which consists of a polo with the company name and the word security next to it, a duty belt with taser, handcuffs, my LP badge, and my gun. Like I said, this was a bad part of town and there have been plenty of attempted break-ins. "Sir, I am quite clearly security here and I'm telling you that you can't park here in the employee lot." "Yeah, right, you're just trying to scam me out of my spot." I'm a little irritated at this point. I have a bit of a short fuse when it comes to guys like this. I blame my time in the Marines, so I raise my voice a bit. "Sir, you need to move your vehicle now." He is a little taken aback, probably because he hasn't been spoken to like that in a long time, if not ever. At this point, he finally realizes that I'm not just some random guy that decided to harass him and tries a different tactic. "Well, I don't see any other cars here, so where are these employees?" He actually does the finger quote quotes. Yeah, I just did as well, to be fair. I'm finally done with this guy and lose any tact that I had left. I don't really care what you can and cannot see. I told you to move your car, so you will move it now or it will be towed. Try it, Redditor cop. My dad is a retired police officer and knows every cop in this city, and I will make your life a living heck. As I've mentioned before, we have off-duty cops working for us. Plus, another member of my team was a detective in the city for 30 years and was a member of the PD board. So we had a great relationship with the PD. I wasn't worried about anything. Well then, you can have him call the impound lot after your car gets towed. I'm pretty loud at this point and some of the other customers are staring. The entitled customer scoffs and starts heading back to his car. You've made a huge mistake, Redditor cop. Have fun in jail tonight. He then proceeds to drive off and leaves, once again way too fast, and this time nearly hitting me. Nothing ever came of it afterwards, so either he was lying about his dad or his dad didn't have as much clout as he seemed to think. I never saw him again. I'm just so confused by this. Why did this guy try to pick a fight with you? When he said, "Who are you to tell me where I can park?" I'm pretty sure it should have been quite obvious. If someone's in full security guard uniform with the word security on them, a duty belt with a taser, handcuffs, a badge, and a gun, I think it's pretty safe to assume they may just be some form of security. Anyway guys, that is going to do it for this episode of r/IDOWorkHereLady. I really hope you have enjoyed it. If you did, like this video, comment your opinions down below, and subscribe for daily Reddit content from me. Also, if you want more I Do Work Here Lady videos, I've made a playlist so you can binge watch them all right away. With that being said, I will see you guys all tomorrow for a fresh new upload on the channel.